Hello, everyone. This is Jason Bittner from Triple Helix Corporation, and welcome back to our Helix Insider podcast. I'm joined in studio with my senior developer, Andy Webster, and our other developer, Pedro Lopez. Hello, everybody. So today we wanted to talk about the new tech trends for 2023, things that we see on the horizon in our world, and wanted to share some of our thoughts and observations with what we see upcoming in the tech world. Pedro, why don't we start with you? What do you see as some of the more emerging trends that we should be all aware of?
Well, there's the obvious one, which is AIs with the rise of LLMs and
What's an LLM?
large language model. Um, there's also the augmented reality with the Apple Vision um, and also virtual reality with the metaverse. Portrayed outside as the Meta Quest and all those other technologies that came out in recent years. Um, yeah, I mean that's the ones that come to mind. Do you have anything to add, Andy?
Like it's cool. There's a lot of cool things that you could do with it, but inherently right now, I think it's a little bit in its infant stages, and maybe it should be used for some really simple things. But there's like the way that it's being pushed is like, oh, it's gonna do all this stuff, which it will eventually someday. But right now, I think we should stick to the the simple applications of it rather than like immediately putting artificial intelligence controlling somebody's brain, for example, or something like that, like like with Neuralink. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a more practical term, for what we do, um, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with LLMs, like reading PDFs. Like a company can upload, PDFs and train on it, and then it can, for example, as answer questions about like employers handbook or a set of documents about the business or reports, annual reports, or um, financial reports even. um, yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can currently integrate that into the current business world in a way that saves time and effort. The biggest caveat that we at Triple Helix are looking into it internally is, um, a lot of the integrations with this technology is done via sometimes APIs, and there's a dependency on OpenAI's API, uh, and we're not entirely sure how privacy really works with that. Uh, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, came out and said that through the API they don't train um, the model on the data that it's passed back and forth. But I guess the general goal would be to provide a way to businesses to have those LLMs running locally and integrated with their business data in a way that doesn't leave you know the company, and so keeping the privacy, not only the company's clients but also the internal company's data. And that's what we're currently looking at, and try to provide that type of solution in the future for our clients.
Right, right. Andy, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the experience you had with VR and augmented reality, some of the trends that you're seeing in those areas?
Well, I mean, the first VR I ever tried was the Oculus Rift in beta, and like my first impression was like, whoa, this really like this really gets me inside of it really puts you in another world, which is really cool, and I can see a lot of cool applications for that. Like, um, I mean, anything like you could do virtualization, virtual training would be a great way to do something like that. But yeah, virtual reality training, which is you know like for like especially for like I mean the military. You think about something like that would be a great application.
So what is the difference between virtual reality and what they call augmented reality, which is what this new, I guess, Apple Vision system is supposed to do?
Yeah, so like augmented reality, I guess if it was a big hit not that long ago, but like Pokemon Go, if anybody ever played that, it's like where augmented reality put would put like a display in front of you, but you can also see what's going on around you, which I can attest through some injuries that with a full VR headset, you do not know what's going on around you. It's very easy to get completely lost, and trip over things, and yeah.
I should have suffered from that. I had to sell my Meta Quest because I was playing a first person shooter, and this guy came up to me shooting, and I tried to duck, but I thought there was a wall where there wasn't, and that could have been a bad injury. So I was like, I better put this thing away before I get really hurt.
Oh man, this reminds me of a dream where I rolled over in my dream, and instead of rolling into a solid surface, I rolled off the bed. But yeah, like Apple Vision's idea is like more of an augmented reality, so that you can kind of have a combination of virtual world and real world.
I want to throw in an example from my own history. I actually did graduate research in flight simulation, and one of the things that I came to the conclusion is that certain types of graphics enhanced the ability for a pilot. We were doing helicopter flight simulation to detect where the ground plane was and navigate, particularly if it was like low weather conditions. And one of the conclusions of the study I ran was that if you ran basically a terrain grid on top of the terrain with like an augmented reality headset, you can improve the fidelity of the pilot's flight performance in maintaining a specific altitude. And so I purported that if we wanted to allow like military or even commercial aviation helicopters to improve their performance and just in safety and overall, just simply a terrain grid over ground plane where the vision and certainly weather conditions weren't the greatest would be that vastly improving their performance. And the study proved that. In fact, so much so that you could actually allow somebody to fly nighttime bad weather as if they were in daytime conditions because it improved their ability to navigate so well. So that was something that I remember augmented reality.
I mean, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, why is it easier to do things in a video game than it is in real life? It's because you have all this like information that you wouldn't have in real life, but with augmented reality, it's almost like you have a heads up display that you could be just parsing data around you as you go.
Well, but the main thing is that um, the main difference I think with virtual reality and augmented reality is with augmented reality you're essentially using the power of the internet and data from the internet to enhance the real world. Uh, you know, virtual reality you're doing the opposite. Like you're the enhancement, right? So you're bringing whatever. Uh, essentially your mind, like your experience, or rather you're bringing yourself into the internet and living in this virtual world that ever so often is trying to mimic the real world. So I guess that's the biggest flaw with that, is that they're trying to recreate the real world into the virtual world, and the real world always is going to beat it, right? But there's a real use case for not only businesses, for personal lives as well, when you bring the virtual world to augment the real world. It's like it's almost like a 2x, right? And so I think that's why people resonate more with augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality or the metaverse. The metaverse, I think, has a real good application for games where you're trying to escape reality, but for the real world, especially for businesses, you're really trying to enhance processes and the way things work, and that can be really useful in a scenario like that.
All right, I want to take us on a little further step. We deal a lot with improving processes for businesses and specifically our manufacturing customers. And one of the things that we've noted that's really gaining a lot of traction is the idea of automation, process automation. And if you think about it, a process automation is simply something you're doing manually right now. It could be like taking numbers off a machine, maybe reading a quality data, but actually writing that data down because ultimately that handwritten data needs to be then transcribed into a system where it can be recorded and saved. And the idea that you make the processes automated. So in this example, the machine data where you're reading numbers onto a piece of paper, you would actually have the machine automatically capture the data and send it somewhere. And by that means, you could actually improve not only the process. People aren't handwriting it. Tendency for errors, right? But also being able to save all that time and possibly capture a lot more data because if the process is automated, your machine is doing the work. Andy, talk to me and our listeners about what that looks like and what we do and some of the benefits of actually establishing process automation.
Yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, it goes the old saying, knowledge is power, and data is knowledge about your manufacturing process. So the more data you have on your manufacturing process, like for say if you have like a big factory line, and you've got sensors at different points during the line, you can really by capturing that data, you can then really report some like metrics, like um, say if you're recycling certain contents and you need to like report it to a government agency or something to get some money back. Um, you could really accurately report your recycled content, your recycled materials, so that you can really maximize your benefits of that. And then also just being able to have really accurate and real time metrics on what's going on in your company, just having basically your finger on the pulse, essentially. So in terms of reporting later, that also just has a great benefit in that you don't have to then spend, I don't know, a month or whatever during tax season, or quarterly tax season, as a business would probably do it, reporting all that, and save you a lot of work, a lot of manual labor that's both tedious and expensive.
Right, right. Pedro, same question and thoughts on the process automation and the benefits of.
I mean, there's a whole lack of things like Andy mentioned, but from a business standpoint, like marketing wise, you can automate a lot of like the marketing functionalities as well. Um, I guess like from our standpoint, for what we do, even you could automate like updates to servers. You could, there's a whole lot of things that you can do with that.
Right, right. So we talked a lot about some of these emerging trends, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, and then now process automation. But let's talk about some of like the personal and ethical concerns of technology and how things are evolving, particularly with regards to like Internet of Things and our privacy and security concerns and things that we want to be aware of when using and adopting these new technologies. Andy, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, so you know it's great. It just like with automation, it's great to have information about you know your house, your appliances, things like that. Like one thing I think of immediately that is probably the most accessible is like a doorbell camera or something like that. And based on your level of need for privacy, they're great for security in the sense that you can see who's at your door, you can talk to them. Um, you can, if something happens down the street, you can report that to the police. But also knowing that if you're concerned about this, that the police departments usually do have veto rights to just take that footage. Um, you know, if that concerns you, then maybe set up something with a more custom setup, which requires more work. But and then the other concern is make sure that you get a camera in that case that is pretty secure, and that also you are practicing secure practices in your passwords and things like that. Because if anybody gets a hold of your camera and access to it, then sometimes a hacker might just sit on it until they really need something. Or if you have cameras inside your home, just be cognizant of like where you put those, so that like don't put them in your bedroom, for example, or private spaces. But and then I'm also just thinking of like thermostats, things that you wouldn't want somebody else messing with, except for you. Be careful, I guess. Be diligent and secure with your password management and who you give that password to. Like don't give it to like the delivery guy just so they can open your door and drop something inside your house. I don't know if I would uh, do that. Things like that.
Well, I remember when I was in college and the cloud was becoming a thing. I remember somebody from HP came to give a talk, and they sort of like let out that the cloud was going to be a thing, and we're going to simply be able to upload things to the cloud. Um, and we didn't quite know what that was or what we're going to be uh, giving companies access to, because before then our personal data used to live on our machines and our hard drives and our pen drives, right? But now I think with like all this, post cloud, and now with like the rise of LLMs and AI, people are a little bit more conscious about uh, data privacy and all that. Um, and I think that's going to become even more important and prevalent, because one thing I've noticed with the rise of LLMs and AI is that initially when OpenAI came out, they racked up subscribers really quick, and as other companies try to catch up, they a lot of the companies kind of open source their uh, technology, their model, giving springing up like Hugging Face, which is like a platform that you can upload models and whatnot. But after that happened, the open source community for that kind of outpaced a bit the Facebooks and Googles of the world. Yeah. And so I think what that indicates is that just like with businesses, there's going to be a trend going forward of people taking more accountability and concern about their data and trying to bring that in house and developing their own solutions, right? Uh, Whether through partnerships, small, precise partnerships and whatnot. And the same thing should happen eventually in people's personal lives. People are going to become more technology savvy and inclined, and be able to create their own networks and care more for their data. Right? I remember when we were growing up that we used to simply buy a CD or a game and put it on the machine, right, and on the console and play. But now the other day I was trying to download Call of Duty, and it took forever. I had to delete games, and then I don't really own it because it's like inside of the machine breaks. Microsoft like deletes my account. I don't have it anymore, right? So I think solutions that allow you to keep your stuff private and secure your stuff are going to be a trend in the future. And we're already seeing that in the business world, right? A lot of people are reluctant with just feeding information through OpenAI's API, and they're looking for ways to do that internally. So
Yeah, no, good point. Good point. And I just wanted to add on to that with regards to the AI and all the tools that we're using is that AI is great because it's generated from a large amount of content. However, that content, where that comes from, is sometimes suspect. And you want to believe that the content it's taking from is actually legitimate, authorized content. And sometimes that area can be a little bit gray. And so, this stuff gets better and better as more data is fed into it, but we also want to be mindful of the privacy. And this is very, very true of the businesses we're talking to who want to develop their own AI content, in that they don't want to take and develop their own AI applications, but then share it with the rest of the world, because in some cases it's proprietary, particularly when we have our military customers who deal with, military parts and whatnot. So anything that they're using to improve their business with that, they can't let that information like get out, right? So being able to secure that. And then just to comment on the more of the privacy of the personal side, and all these great technologies like being able to answer the door or let somebody into your house to drop off a package, obviously they have concerns of privacy and security. And you touched on this briefly, Andy, with regards to the thermostats. I've heard of some horror stories where thermostat got hacked in somebody's house. The person raised the temperature of the furnace to like 110 degrees and almost burned down the house. And in that case, that's just being nefarious and whatnot. But I mean, having proper security on all the devices and the things that you buy is very, very important. So being mindful of the technologies that you're absorbing, but really mindful of like what kind of position it puts you in, I think is very important. So I think that's all our time for today. So I just wanted to thank my two special guests in studio, Andy Webster, my senior developer, and Pedro Lopez, my other developer. And till next time, thanks everybody. Bye bye.